I should probably not comment on this because it's really beneath me, but it's just the example that has been presented to me. So, if you listen to the last show, you heard about this contretemps between 4.0 feminist mandarins, political commentators, and then the two male. I just call them men. How about that? Stop using the word male. It's another little vocabulary thing that Leninists have injected into the public forum. Um, so they're now. This is the drama. It's starting to get into international drama because, of course, the news is now infotainment. This is actually good filler. Like I said, the think of not the bloody gauze on top of the decapitated head. Now, don't just think of like random gauze. Think of it like clumped together or sculpted into a face and a mouth, and they put a wig on it. And then that's sort of the talking head that you have in front of you. No brains, but just soft pedaling the ideological parameters of the mass mental space we're supposed to inhabit, which is never question women, always suspect men. And then, of course, you have these allies that they have, these little simp white monkeys. So now, look, Megyn Kelly, she's a presentable version of Mandarin. I sort of like her. She's probably the most normal, but I'm not privy. She at least makes a normal, non-axe grinding type of impression. But she's an alpha female, right? She's probably got 10 dudes in her text. She's got literally an army of simps at her disposal. If she were to say some man that she didn't like was off-putting, that dude would be in would have some problems. Like one of them would show up like, "Hey, did you insult the chastity of my lady?" Somebody like that. And this is all very unfortunate. This is really the most subnormal human psychological realms that one can, socio-psychological realms one could possibly visit, which is really on a really base primitive level, like the apes chest beating and challenging other apes for the alpha female's attention or favors, even if it's a pat on the head or a wink. They're willing to risk their lives and sanity and certainly, well, you would say dignity, but they don't. They seem to just not have it. It's like not there. I think that's a value. It's a trait. It's a spiritual condition that typifies the lower half of the bell curve of human integrity. So it's prevalent. It's, I would say, the norm in many cases. It's well over 50%. I mean, if we want to do an 80-20 split, it's probably that. And even the most intellectual men, the most accomplished men, can get push button on this primitive level of programming. So, but of course, because it became a big scandal and Megyn Kelly is a 4.0 feminist, even if she claims she isn't, you'd have to look into her family life to confirm that, but that's all behind, a veil of privacy for this celebrity. But she most likely has just baseline snarky opinions that alpha females are known to have. And why do they have it? Because their lives are just completely different than not just average men, who or the beast carrying burdens, but also average women. and this is also funny, there's a split between women. There's the average woman. All of them want to be, the alpha female, but some of them will just have to admit defeat, and then they go along with what the alpha female does. Watch it in chimpanzees. We're very closely related to chimpanzees. This is not me being unnecessarily mean, although some on the lower half of the bell curve in the integrity and spirituality department and dignity department would most likely have me right now chained and thrown into a prison for stating the obvious. But in any case, yeah, she wants to play it down. Like, this isn't really an issue. Look, I'm an alpha female, and I think the men shouldn't have been thrown out on their asses for just making some mild statements about some other alpha female. But this is something like that. Really, the people, I don't know what they call it, chimpologists or something. They have recorded instances where if you in some way challenge the alpha female, like there's mass violent outbursts. They kill female chimps. They also kill male chimps. Like, how about this? An unvetted male comes up and gooses the alpha female. That causes a gigantic disturbance within the group. And if he's not challenged, if he's not put in his place, he'll do it again. So it's part of the way they sort themselves out. Now, of course, we don't have violence these days. Otherwise, the only the goons, would have all the women, as if that's a great thing to have. But we're sort of a little bit differentiated in that we have passive violence, such as the passive violence of financial totalitarianism, which is again a co-opted system. We a lot of suckers live in this thinking that of course it's a meritocracy. You work hard, make more money. Well, the people at the top didn't do that. They usurped our basically our political process to maintain a gigantic discrepancy between meritocracy and the nightmarish world that we inhabit at this time in 2023, the neo-barbarian parameters of our economic fiasco. So, but anyway, she can't just be the alpha female during this ploy, or some how to put it, like trying to put herself on the side of the aggrieved parties, like the objectively aggrieved parties, like the people that have objectively or are outraged at an objective discrepancy between punishments. And so she's like, yeah, sure, I'm on your side. I'm going to come out and, pick up those popularity points. They're really easy to pick up in this case. And it doesn't affect me. And you know what? I don't like other alpha females anyway. And, I want to be the good one amongst them. So I'm differentiating myself by coming in on the side of the poor men in this inverted system that has her on TV as a political commentator. I mean, the fact that fact alone would force someone like I don't know, Charles Bukowski to the bottle, just turning on the TV and seeing that, like it's like automatic. You'd have to hit. Not that I'm recommending that at all. That is a form of self-harm. Do realize that. There's a lot easier and cheaper way of not getting aggravated so that you don't need to numb yourself, is to disengage from it. Certainly personally, certainly socially, certainly intellectually. Disengage. And but anyway, she then brings on, this is again the format that I was talking about, the charlatan, snake oil salesman, political operative method. Is appear, give the rubes, 50% of the time where you're appearing to be on their side, and then comes in a flips, and then she flips it to a white monkey. This dude in the background, he's on hybrid remote. This dude looks like he would have been a used car salesman in a time gone by. But his shirt is a little bit crisper, and his mood is a little bit better because he's sitting leaning on a veranda in some place. I'm assuming it's Thailand, or it looks sort of tropical. And this is, she called him up, so it's like a Zoom call or a video conference. This is his paycheck for the day. He needs to, give 10 minutes of his take on things. And oddly enough, he comes in with, well, they weren't being sensitive enough. And this really isn't to be tolerated. As a man, he knows that this is actually a good thing because there's too many rowdies in the ranks, and we need to have social decorum, even though, like I said, with these online dating apps, it's basically free prostitution for 5% of buff dudes. And, that's it. And if you want to get mad about modernity, go back to the Viking Age or something. The guys that had money and means and lands and properties, they had the women. Why? Because women were dependent on them. The men at the oars, they didn't have nothing. And they didn't have a woman either, probably, unless they took one as a slave in their rampages, which was one of the side benefits. War booty, spelled Booty. But if you didn't have any money, women, they need a lot of maintenance. They're literally dependent on you. Now, not the ones that get, boosted up in our inverted society. That they're the ones that are also totally sterile. They don't need no money, don't need no man. Like Megyn Kelly, she's cool. She don't need nothing from no man. She's probably got cool couple mil, if not more. She might have like a fashion line for ladies or something. She could be a mid-millionaire to billionaire. Easy, especially if she invested that money in the Ponzi scheme, and has some consultants that know, what, because he doesn't, her super simp investment manager doesn't want to disappoint his fair lady. He wants her to, recommend him to the other alpha females that Kelly rolls with. But the white monkey exed, or would have been, used car salesman chilling in Thailand. He has the neo-Leninist line. So I'm a man, but I'm an ally to this paradigm that manifestly makes no sense and causes gigantic problems, disjoinings, disruptions, and enmity, social unrest. I sort of see, the point that these two dudes that aren't me, just imagine, go back to high school or in school, some very low moral type of dude that is looking for scraps from an alpha female, wants to be, sort of liked. And so he'll just say what they want to hear. And he knows what they want to hear. Like he's sensitive to their issues. And so he does his bit, cashes his check for the day, and then irony proof, Megyn Kelly goes into an infomercial for a law firm to help people that have been through a divorce or some other legal catastrophe, which is endemic in Western countries. They have a low starting consultation price of $100 or something to get your credit report back from a minus 1,000. Which is another thing, like plantation rules are like this. Whether or not that credit rating is, these are independent companies, collecting information on people, which probably should be illegal because it's a violation of privacy. But of course, as things become more anarcho-tyrannical, that there are some really crazy people that might help to identify, which is of course of massive benefit for companies or any other institution. But in this modern day and age, it's like a mix. Like 80% of people that might have a bad credit rating have actually been screwed over by the system itself. The regulators regulating the regulations that the law firm represents. Of course, they're not doing it for free. This is a for-profit society. So when you're broke with minus 100,000 credit rating, thanks to being destroyed by the courts, you also can't get a job because, the first thing the human resource departments do, which of course their fake mandate was they were going to keep the company out of the clutches of legal predators. But of course, they've now become so ideologically fanatical that they're causing legal problems by overshooting even the wording of the misguided laws that via lawfare have been injected into the legal system. So what they do, like, especially the fat, lazy ones, the first thing they do is pull a credit report, and they have just, it's immutable. The CEO said nobody below, or 100, or what is the average credit rating that a high school student has, and nobody below 800 can be hired. So, guys that have obviously are working because they need the money, because they're broke, because they're in debt, because they have legal obligations to pay, because they've been railroaded by these ideologically toxic and politicized courts. Just completely impenetrable dunce of an ideologue, bureaucratic Mandarin, just goes through the 10 applications, puts them into their credit agencies, and automatically, without even looking, it's probably all automated. The 5 guys that need the money and will work for it but have been screwed, no chance at all to get on their plantation. No way. Corporate policy and all of that. But she's coming out chilling, like they're paying her. Like maybe there's a fraction of that, 20%, because it's obviously an issue. It's a demographic that they've targeted as a potential cash cow, so they want to make it a direct appeal. I can't imagine any guys getting screwed like that watching Megyn Kelly, but maybe she has appeal with simps. She's sort of maybe the ideal woman that they like to fantasize about, as long as she's not coming out with crazy stuff. As long as she softballs them, why wouldn't they take a look at Megyn saying a couple of things? It's like the Twitch phenomenon, but a higher class version of it, a more respectable version of it. Easy on the eyes and all of that. So sweet talk me, Megyn, that type of thing. I'm sure there's That's a big part of her viewership. Now, if some, ugly dude with really good ideas gets up there, he gets no views. That he's not listened to. But, Megan, she's got a lot of subscribers, you know. Now, of course, she's capitalizing on her previous career. She was on the networks. They say if you're on the networks at any point, you're just permanently famous. You can turn that into a bunch of different gigs all the time. You could do public speaking. Like who's coming to our Podunk University today? Oh, it's Megan Kelly. She's going to talk about underwater basket weaving, and 100 people will show up. They want to take a picture, have them take a selfie with her. I mean, they would think that's cool enough to show up. Now, a philosopher, a mathematician, an astrophysicist, a historian, an artist, a real one, not the substitutionist ones. Crickets, like you would be talking to an empty auditorium. No one would pay admission, and you would get maybe 800 views on YouTube over the period of 10 years. And these are things, it's verifiable. Like I'm not making this up. In a way, like you would think, I want to make this up. I don't want to make this up. On the other hand, it's quite revealing, isn't it? How things really work versus the way they appear to work. Or what is it work? So, and here's the thing why the two guys went off on this 4.0 feminist was that there was a discussion about the suicide crisis. And she came out and was like, why are you going to allocate money for suicide consultation to men when, that's an attack on women? She said something that ridiculous, and that's what provoked them into a response. Like, can you imagine having anything to do with a woman like that? Like, talk about going limp. It's like, and that was more or less the gist of what they said. It wasn't in any way maniacal what they said. It's just like a basic response. But no, the whole system came down. They hit the alarm bell. Ding, ding, ding. The chimpanzee, they started hooting and hollering. Chimpanzees all over the place. And it's funny, like, again, look at the chimpanzees. Like, the male groups have, like, also followers. Some of them are, like, maniacal. Like, they'll, murder the old alpha chimp at some point. Like, he has some people that will be his officers, but they can murder him if they think he's not up to the task. But there's a little bit more cooperation. But whatever happens in the female side of things is a whole different set of drama parameters. So this is, in fact, one of those cases where the female drama is caused by some male chimps, and now the whole the whole community is hooting and hollering about it. But ultimately, okay, it's ridiculous. But what is it doing? It's wasting up time with drama. Which is something, again, females don't consider that a waste of time. They consider that quality entertainment. And of course, they have these grudges against lower chimps trying to goose them. That's like one of the things high on their minds all the time. So this is an instance of that. All eyes are on the incident. Screeching, just swinging from the trees. It's... It's a hootenanny. But be that all as it may, like I said, there's a real pressing need for tort reform. And again, my Recommendation is putting it in a box. Again, we write up a proposal bill, gets ratified, all of it goes into a box. And that's how we deal with it. But of course, there's a bunch of a priority barricades before that's happening. And if you look at the disarray in which the political system is in, then you can see, well, who would benefit from things continuing on their current trajectory, and you add global players, and then you can see why it's not improving, despite how self-satisfied Mandarins might be about these contretemps. That however many millions they have on their bank accounts doesn't really matter when they start to invade Alaska, for example, because they're doing live firing drills in the Bering Sea as we speak. So it's not like that's not going to probably happen if they think that there's enough of, let's say, a lack of a credible deterrence on the other side. And how do you get that? Well, it's over time. You hollow out, you gut societies with these types of practices, political and legal warfare, social warfare, economic warfare, just a combination of that, and not addressing the issues appropriately, or having, again, flim-flammers front run the real, for example, what I just said, shutting it all down, that's heard by political scientists from geopolitical adversaries. And they're like, hey, you know what? That's the real position. Let me front run that. And then if you're stupid enough to vote those people in, of course it never happens, and they have a reason for why, but they walk off with millions. You can see this now, Sunak, he's one of them. Braverman, another one. How many others are in the Conservative Party front-running solutions that will never happen, but really believe themselves to be conservative? Like, if you were to challenge them on that, they would scream in your face that you're out to get them or something. But again, think about where they're coming from. There's a lot more where they came from. Just think, people that are working there for their entire lives for nothing. Just the misery of the places they come from. Hell yeah, they would do that. In a nice studio, just get up, start talking, whatever they need to say. Of course they'd take that job. The used car salesman, that dude, he's sleeping like a baby, with his connections and lack of integrity. He's sleeping like a baby. He does not have to worry about paying his energy bill, even though it's gone up 300%. He doesn't have that problem. He's got other problems, like how to get, his kind of beer in his tropical resort. That's sort of the problems he's dealing with. What suntan lotion he should go with, because the last one he bought gave him a rash. So he's worried about problems like that, not a rapacious legal system and how to reform it in the quickest, most painless way possible. Oh yeah, and if and when Alaska gets invaded, he's not going to be there digging trenches in the snow. He's already made his bones with Clown World. He's he's out of the game. He's a profiteer. Or if he's in the game, he's on the profiting side. So yeah, that basic lack of integrity. I mean, there used to be more people that would be able to spot that, and it was called out more. Now it's just considered being a professional. And again, it's rewarded behavior. So, and these values, they do seep down from the top. The top is a charlatan, imposterous class. So who they hire and the rules they enforce, imposterous, of course. there's a connection between the two. It's about values. You have a boss, or let's say a king, a good king, a king with integrity, with religion, with moral principles. He's not tolerating snake oil salesmen within his ranks. He's not. Now, of course, this is assuming the king has power. Now, in the case of certain constitutional monarchies or whatever the hell they've legalized themselves out of authority, any of those things, it's not the same thing. I'm talking about a king in the traditional sense who had full executive authority, especially as far as his ministers and their conduct was concerned. So a political landscape dotted with snake oil salesmen and women just getting in front of issues and not delivering on them. What king would tolerate that? Like, oh yeah, I think it's really funny that I said that there should be order and security in the realm, and now there's, I look through my binoculars, and there's like, again, masses of irregulars hitting the beaches. So who's in charge here again? Who got hired? What family is this? What earl is behind this? Or maybe it's a collection of nobles that have some profit motive for acting in a way that's not commensurate with the king's orders. Has that happened in the past? Do we have historical documentation of things like that happening? Well, what happened in those instances? Did the nobles succeed, or did the king succeed? What we do know is that there's been lots of civilizations that have disappeared from this planet, like the dinosaurs, so that's an option too. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not inevitable. It doesn't need to happen. Like, it wasn't inevitable. We get this bias. We think, Rome had to fall. No, it didn't. If Rome got got some good administrators and maybe developed new systems of governance that were more resilient, there's no inevitability in the world that it had to fall. But what happened apparently is that because civilization is a living organism that requires authentic participants of high moral standing, that they got a rash. They got a rash of people that had influence that just didn't have the values or the foresight or the luck in a lot of cases, because we're talking also about out of controlness to make the good thing happen, and so the bad thing did, and some of these bad things were irrecoverable. This goes, that goes, this province goes, these barbarians get in, this foolish military expedition gets started, this tax goes up, how about this, public lands don't get distributed to centurions, even though it was specifically set up for that according to their law. No, you had the senators, using that privilege because that was one of the privileges of office. Challenging that in the courts, more or less a death sentence. That's what happened to Cato the Younger. So, but yeah, all those people that got screwed over all that time led to systemic weakening, and that's why. Now, of course, you would think that's terrible. No Roman would want that, but the people on the periphery, the Huns and stuff, they loved that they weakened themselves internally. They were throwing, if they had any way of weakening it further, they would have done it. And in our time, we've got Chinese, Russians, and a lot of other multipolar players. Again, the Indians are something new. They're late in the game, but they're coming in hard. They're the pros at these positioning, front-running political solutions. They got the solutions. They got the public relations team. They got the campaign behind the shiny suits, and whatever you need to hear, they're ready to say it. What's that dude, Sadhu Guru or something? He blazed the way for these people. Now they just see gold. Like, this is the land of milk and honey. You got suckers from sea to shining sea, and as long as you're on message, you could take the whole country. This is how impunistic they are at this point. So, yeah, is it an absurd time? Yes, it is. Will it remain absurd? I don't know. Like, we don't know at this point. Like, how long can this go on? And then how much of it will survive in coming years? Now, there was one good news, is that, for example, in Whitehall, a report came out that, exposing all of their dastardly, sadistic social engineering. But still, this is the conservative government covering for these people, and now we're going to have a labor government which is filled with these people. So, will anything come of that? Maybe not, but at least it's been leaked to the public, so it will go into historical documentation. This is what they did, this is who did it, this is where they were, and this is their doubling down process. Like, they don't retreat from public scrutiny. They hit the gas further because they know their time is limited. If they don't take out all of the other important places as quickly as possible, there could be a reversal on them. So, these are hard-boiled, psychopathic, sadistic political operatives. This is what you're dealing with, with pitter-patter in front. And of course they want to flip the morality so that they're not that, you're that. And if you play along with that, then you're the masochist in the game, which is okay. You can be a masochist, they'll let you live, and unless you give them a reason to chuck you on the heap because you're questionable in some way. On some basic level, you're illegitimate according to their inverted moral theory. You're the bad guy in some form. But they will masochist, like the guy on Megyn Kelly's show. They'll throw you a bone if you're, enough of a beta chump. But again, they're not the chumps, they're the insiders. That's how they define themselves to themselves. So that's how they can continue doing that. I mean, at least the dude is chilling in some tropical location. You have to give him some points for cunning on that. But he could also be a true believer. You don't know. You don't know. And it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. If he wasn't there, there would be, somebody from... why not hire more people from Mumbai? Like, why not outsource the snake oil selling so that, there's even more of an authenticity crisis? That would, but see, that wouldn't be deceptive enough. So, but maybe they just can't find people to lie for them anymore. So that's something they just have to put up with. Like an approval rating that's like hovering at 3%. It's the new normal for them. But because it's a democracy, nothing changes, or at least the democracy we have now, because it's a political system that filters out normal people, negatively selects for charlatans and boosts them. So, yeah, what a time. What a time in history that we live in to see this. But maybe it was part of it. We needed to historically document this in this time. So in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years time, real measures can be finally carried out. It's really quite surprising how dense so-called political analysts are on the American side of the pond. They still don't get why Hillary didn't win. Like, how did it happen? It's like a mystery to them. Like, I'm not making this up. There's like one, two, like a panel, 5 experts. Don't get it. Look, Bill Clinton, first off, like, again, go back to where the hell the guy came from. He was a crappy lawyer from a crappy place, and didn't have a whole lot of leadership during his 2 terms, which are also highly questionable. If you start looking back, like when, for example, the Navy started to get taken apart, he was a big part of that. He had a lot of cultural programs that were neo-Leninist and divisive. But what he was corrupt, so he spread the money around. And so, sort of like Thatcher, in a way. But he was supposed to be on the left, like he was supposed to be pro-labor, but actually he wasn't type of dude. So he had a lot of friends. Now, just the thought of having someone like that, like a, corrupt lawyer from nowhere, be president for 8 years, an open admission of a broken political system. But then to add on top of that the idea that the wife of a man like that has a right to be president of the United States for another 4, and she was probably going for another 8 years. So imagine that, 16 years in a completely disreputable family with completely disreputable people, riding it out. I mean, you can understand their disappointment when she completely failed, despite all of the airbrushing she got from a captured press corps. That's the thing. They're like, we put in so much work. How couldn't it have not happened? It must have been Putin. This is the other thing. And you know what? Maybe it was. It's possible. Maybe he did play a part in it. But it's certainly not something you can pull off like that if there's not like a gigantic base for it. And it's that gigantic base that these people are just impenetrably incapable of understanding. And really quick, the neo-Leninist words come out. They're anti-this, they're anti-that. The poison frame. There's something suspicious about them. They're not monolithically on our plantation, so there's something, they're against us. See, they're projecting how they operate. See, they have all those groups. They're not stating the groups that they hate, but they suspect those groups of hating the groups that they're aligned with. So they more or less expose themselves with that type of rationale. If they use those button words, those push button words, you know what you're dealing with. So no matter where they came from, what they did, what their CV looks like, they're neo-Leninist operatives. So, again, this is not saying that Trump is the solution to all the problems. But here's another thing. Trump was another guy. He was sitting in the audience, I think, because, what came in afterwards was it? Oh, well, Obama, that was another fiasco. But they don't see it because they were making money hand over foot. Like, why would someone want to be against that? Like, after 8 years of that, why wouldn't we want another 8 years of a second-hand man? Like, why are we having these problems? Like, it's like, this is how disconnected these people. It's just frightening to realize how disconnected these people are from average Americans. Like, or how about this? Just the concept of the USA itself, its entire history, how disconnected. Why not call them globalists? Like, they think they're going to pull off some type of global utopian Leninist dream. It's just complete malarkey. They've completely forgot the people they stepped on to get to their Mandarin positions, and they think they're just gonna boost off to the moon with globalism. Just random people from random parts of the world. That are not gonna flush these people. the second they get a chance. It's funny, just watch the Chinese property market. They thought they were going to build some infinite flimflammery there, and now it's all falling apart. And then you don't got the pennies on the assets. You have nothing there. No legality, nothing. They were big. They went in big with that, especially the press corps. This is going to be the new thing. This thing that got us here, forget that, junk that, disgrace that, undercut that, turn off the factory there, build another one there type people. All that is documented. This is not libel-less. This is documented. And if it's documented, there's also people that are responsible for that, which have not been brought to justice. In fact, they're so wealthy that they're already thinking in terms of 1,000-year plans that will never happen. So, on the one hand, it's out to lunch owners. They're not in the factory. Never were. Maybe they own, like Murdoch. They own like 300 factories. They're not visiting them. They got people, yes men, tell them what's going on. Maybe these yes men are making deals with geopolitical actors, which is why their culture is so crap. Imagine that, just the difficulty of getting through a working week, and then the unbelievable indignities that these anti-cultural people have subjected just hapless employees to, like trapped employees. It's one of the biggest crimes of the century. Yet it's just considered normal operating procedure in 2023. So, but then they come back to Trump and say, okay, well, his cabinet's filled with billionaires that are just going to work for $1. Well, that does stink if it's true, because like I said, having a lot of money, which is really hard for people to imagine in our inverted society, but people that have over $1 billion, they have proven where their values are, and it doesn't lie in reciprocal principles, which is, in my opinion, it's a reason for being excluded from political activities. Because, let them run. Like, put them. It would be funny if you had like a human rat experiment. You put the billionaires in there, and then you say, all right, well, what are all the suggestions they came up with, and then how much of that is self-serving? It's probably going to be 30%, like something to keep it on the low. That's not the stuff that gets covered by public scrutiny, but they're setting something up, some type of funnel for them, people they know, or you name it. They think that's really clever. That's why they're such big businessmen, because they don't knock on doors. They change systems to work for them. It's sort of like the defunct fighter program. You got all these subcontractors coming in. Oh yeah, you like chips? Well, isn't it bad when you can't get them? Well, guess what? I can get them to you, but it's going to cost 300% more. You want defense or you don't want defense? Let me know. You want cars? Don't want cars? Let me know. Here's my number. Call me back when you get over the price increase. That's what billionaires do. It's just a level of scale to larceny. So, but I hope it's not true. I mean, again, the dude hasn't gotten elected yet, but is he the savior of the country? I don't really see it. But on the other hand, Biden too is like, well, why? Why does the system not have normal people in it? And that's, again, when we get to these geopolitical actors. So I mentioned the Indians that were late in the game but are now way in the game because they see that it's just a free-for-all. You need to think about the Ottomans in that whole area because they got geopolitical ambitions. And again, traditionally, what was the Ottoman Empire, and like how are people being leveraged there? You know, everyone's surprised. Like, yeah, NATO, technically Turkey's a NATO member, but they're leveraged on energy. So if they don't cut a deal with the Russians, nothing works there. Imagine them just turning their energy off. Well, they're back to the Stone Age. So they're compromised. They cannot have a policy that is antithetical to what the Russians want, which is, again, an Asiatic colony that predates on Europeans, Westerners, Western culture. So then just think of the groupings of people there that get flipped. You know, what was the purpose of their intervention in Syria, for example? How has that changed the power dynamics there? Who is leveraged and who isn't? Oh, but these people, they were always claiming they were on our side. But now that situation has fundamentally changed. So whose side are they on now? Well, maybe they're saying they're on your side, but they're actually not. Could that happen in geopolitical situations? Yes or no? I'm trying to think of an example where that happened. I mean, you could think of the First World War at some point. You know, Italy figured out it wasn't in its best interest to be on the side of the Allies. They flipped. So all of a sudden, you know, the Allies or the centrist powers, or whatever you want to call them, the Austrians, all of a sudden, you know, instead of an ally on the border, had to reposition things so that they wouldn't be used as a conduit for invasion. What's a conduit of invasion? Well, let's not be so euphemistic. People showing up in the middle of the night with artillery, bayonets, and guns to blow you up, to exterminate you, take over your stuff. Diplomacy is not trivial. Power relationships are not trivial. Geography, geopolitics is not trivial. But if you have a dunced political class that's also a captured political class, which is also a substitutionist political class, that is also a global political class, well, what side are they on? Well, you can see it. I mean, because right away they don't want nothing messing up their cash flow. Period. They don't care what happens to average Americans. They just care if they could potentially affect them negatively. That's it. It's completely self-interested, and it's barely disguised. Barely disguised. Not only how much disdain they have, how much they inflate their self-importance, but also, again, how totally disconnected, asteroided, and spaceship they are. So who needs people like that around? Like, there's a fire extinguisher. Why are you, explaining why that this process should not go in some intuitive way, which again is not the boogeyman of authoritarianism. What it is called is a good, effective governance, streamlined governance, rational governance, something that the common man can just understand intuitively, instead of 55,000 explanations why they're a bad person. So things can get worse, things can get better. There's no guarantees. You live for the next 5 minutes, you're really living in reality. You're living for the next 5 years, you're not. And the real problem is Trump gets in and the billionaires get in, and nothing gets done again. And then you're talking about invasions happening. Taiwan kicks off. Then you got Alaska. What else would they hit? See, people are thinking they're going to limit it to Taiwan. Why would they do that? They're already active in Burma. Why wouldn't they just, they got enough people to throw away, and we know that they don't care about people. They have a track record. Now they got a lot of plastic toys and little gizmos. Why wouldn't they do that? What? It's not like they share any of the fake moralizing points that these detached globalists have. Just make them think that they do. Like, oh, what do these idiots want us to say so that they think we're on their side? Let's do that. Oh no, they're billionaires with public relations companies behind them. They couldn't be idiots. Just look at Elon Musk. He's just the pinnacle of what a globalist governance could look like. Just the pinnacle. Just the strategic thinking alone. Look at his rockets. They land. You don't throw them away. You reuse them. Oh my goodness. The man's a genius. Comes straight out of the financial industry with a very suspect biography. My goodness. He's better than Wonder Bread. If we only had 10 of him, world hunger would be solved. Look, comedy, man. Keep coming back to comedy. Don't all tears that you cry, don't let them be tears of sadness. Let it be tears of laughter. Another point on Trump. So the revenge of this captured press corps, which was the Clinton News Network, for Trump getting in. They did this type of childish behavior also with the George W. Bush. That was already, you could already see that they had decided to go with the poison framing. Now, George W. Bush, or was it George H. Bush, George W. So Walker, I mean, that family, God, there's some, it's not like the people were so disappointed with them that they voted for Obama, so that should just give you some indication. They were so mad that he got in, just like they were mad when Bush got in, I think, a second time, or what, he beat the Clintons, or, it's all in the history of Contretemps. They just went on, again, just a malign criticism tact. So just imagine thousands and thousands of public relations people all deciding at once they're going to criticize everything you say and do. And so that was the atmosphere for 4 years. And yet, even though they did that as a captured press corps, which was totally one-sided and lopsided, people hated the media at such a point that it actually added to its credibility and likability. In fact, I think he no matter what he said and did, he did come out ahead of them. He's now still in the game. People still consider him more credible than they do the press corps. Why is that? Well, they're not into reflecting on that point because they're into partisan politics, power politics. So we got all the people telling the people all the things. So this is obviously the way they should think. This is what our rat experiments have proven us. Don't forget that the humanities are captured, and so you have to. I talked about malign sociologists and social engineers who are certainly at this point potential war criminals, but psychologists. They have this whole branch of psychoanalytic theory that has been the base, so to speak, for all of these horrific social attacks that have manifested themselves into some type of psychological, comprehensive psychological undermining of certain groups that they deem threatening. It's not too hard to figure out who those groups would be. Because you could run analysis, like do big data analysis, like how many times they use certain politically motivated terms, and do attribute those to the so-called journalists or whatever other mouthpieces that were doing it, because that could eventually lead to. But so what's the point? The point is that Yeah, certainly Trump is not ideal, but just attacking a person on for political for personal traits, that is childish. That isn't politics. That's not the way the free press was set up. In fact, how about this? Before we had this tremendous cultural undermining in the last 30 years of bandits, the office of the president was sort of sacrosanct, you know. There was a little bit of back and forth bickering and mudslinging during the election, but after that, the entire press corps more or less got behind the presidency. This did not happen. I think in the second Bush presidency, and certainly in the Trump presidency, didn't happen at all. So just like think of that, just on the face of that, you have an elected president, the official elected highest office. And then you have, again, globalist institutions that have decided to take a completely different take than the American electorate for 4 years. And then they're still scratching their heads like, why don't people believe us? Like, why would they think of us as unpatriotic? Why would they think of us as some type of alien interlopers when we, clearly know better than they do? We're credentialed. We're a nepotistic blob, and we're ideologically conformist. Why don't they believe us? Why aren't they part of what, we've excluded by commandeering the organs of the state? Where's the disconnect? Why? Why is this happening? So, but also, let's get back to the old presidents. Man, Theodore Roosevelt was a big game hunter. He's also a big drinker. There's probably all different types of stories that did not get sliced and diced in the press. Why? Because the presidency was a more important and influential position than these global companies that feel like they're above nations. They're just flying, floating in the air in their little bubble of ill-gotten wealth. Well, what's the presidency? Oh no, what's more important? Investing in China, because that's the future. So this old, white dude got elected. This ain't cool. Screw this guy. Something's wrong here. What? Like they can't imagine why that doesn't connect. With the American, the real Americans. Real ones, not the people they've consigned to the dustbin of history. Living, breathing, patriotic Americans. They don't understand, like. But again, they're just the mandarins. The people behind them are the ones, and the ones behind them, they're geopolitical actors, and not all of them are friendly. In fact, if you look at the penetration of the Russians into the UK financial system, Londongrad, read the damn book. Then you can just see how absolutely toxic and adversarial these forces have to be. You can't launder illicit funds to the tunes of trillions of dollars for a rogue state actor unless you have zero patriotism. So, but they think that's some type of advancement, like they're living in a Star Trek state of mind by doing that, but actually they're in the void of betrayal. They're actually you couldn't be more despicable automation than they are, but because they have such a high opinion of themselves, that they can't see how others see them. And you would think they would have some morality somewhere, they wouldn't be that feedback proof, but nope. Polished chrome torpedoes. All the water molecules bounce off them. There's maybe even like a pocket of air. It's maybe like an advanced one where it like injects air in front of the the front part, so it creates like a pocket, which almost leads to hypersonic velocity, heading into the limbo of ill repute before they go boom. Or maybe they miss. I like thinking they miss, and then they just, just think of a chrome torpedo that runs out of gas, just floating, until they hit the bottom of the Mariana Trench, something like that. Doesn't really matter where they land. But I think in future Americas, where the political system is brought back to the real people, that we'll have an information space and press corps that does not malign and attack the president for ridiculous and trivial reasons in an automated, factory-like, overwhelming way. I don't think that that's the future of democracy, even though it's what typifies our time. And of course, again, the machine can change. So just like it was attacking needlessly, malign criticism of Trump, it can turn on the praise machine. It switches to Rocket Man praise. Everything he does, like here he is elegantly stepping out of a car with a Armani suit. Look how charming he is. See the neo-Leninist operation. These are people that have divorced themselves from, communist history. They're just now self-serving globalists, amoral, materialistically minded, unpatriotic, bureaucratic, nepotistic. The list goes on and on. It's not people you want in politically responsible positions. That's it. And they're like, why don't people want us? That's why. Just go away. Go away. Individually and in mass. Just like the Red Sea, just part. Depart. Because you're not gaining credibility, you're just digging your own graves.